Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome to Policy and Rights, the show about government policy and human rights. Welcome back to Policy and Rights here on Depictions Media Radio. I'm your host, Michael Clogs. I was talking to my wife today, and she brought up the topic of sugar tax. And she didn't know that we were paying a sugar tax. Well, I wasn't absolutely aware of myself that we were paying for a sugar tax. And kind of what that means is anything that contains sugar, you're going to pay extra tax on it. So if you drink a lot of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or any other kinds of soda or pop, you're probably paying a lot of sugar tax. And on top of that, we also still have things like carbon taxes, and we still have sales tax that on many products that we actually buy. Depending on the province that you live in, you could be looking at either a harmonized sales tax or a provincial sales tax, along with the federal government sales tax. A lot of taxes out there, and a lot more proposed taxes to come. If we keep hearing from Paul Vier about how Justin Trudeau isn't worth the expense that we're paying. Well, that expense is the taxes that we're paying, and what are we getting in return? More taxes, higher cost of living, and it's a really good question. Justin Trudeau claims that the carbon pricing actually works. It's making polluters pay for the ability to pollute, and that isn't. It seems that the carbon tax that he's talking about is misplaced. That maybe it should be going to, I don't know, the big corporation that manufactures the products, and that they shouldn't be allowed to pass that tax on. They should just have to eat it as a cost. But again, as consumers, it's passed on to us because, hey, that is the capitalist way. And some of these taxes is done more to lead towards corporate greed than it has to help our environment, which we thought was supposed to be the goal. But in Ontario, they're pushing back against taxes, and we're going to hear from Doug Ford as he's talking about a tax program in Ontario that's actually going to put money back into the people's pockets. That the residents of Ontario, that they're trying to find ways to rebate or lower the taxes so that, well, cost of living is getting to be a bit out of control. And we're going to hear from a premier who who wants to do something about that. So why don't we listen to what Doug Ford is doing in Ontario, and maybe we can convince our provincial or territorial governments to do the same where we live, if we're not in Ontario. So let's hear what he has to say.
Together, we built the largest long-term care home in Ontario, which just opened up last year. We're investing in the complete reconstruction of the Mississauga Hospital, which will become the largest hospital in Canadian history. We're building the Hazel McCallion line, which now includes the downtown loop. These are historic game-changing investments right here in Mississauga. I'm also proud to welcome you to the Pioneer gas station today, because when I was 16, I got my first job right here pumping gas and propane. At the time, the price of gas was about 33 cents per liter. Within the next 6 years, the federal Liberals and NDP plan is to increase the carbon tax by over 37 cents per liter, more than the price of gas when I worked here. People deserve to know the truth about this and how it will make life harder and less affordable. So now I would like to welcome my good friend and the Minister of Finance, Peter Bethlenfalvy, to the podium.
Well, thank you so much, Rudy, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be in Mississauga again, and along with my colleagues and the Premier. You know, our government understands that people's hard-earned dollars are being stretched far enough. And so today, our government is leading by example and once again showing Ontarians that we will continue to find new and innovative ways to put money back into their pockets and protect them from new taxes and fees. Just as we did when we removed the tolls on highways 412 and 418 so that people and businesses had more options and saved more of their hard-earned money. Just as we did when we kept transit affordable by removing double fares and extending fare integration. Just as we did when we supported parents with 46,000 new childcare spaces since we took office and saved an average of $8,500 per child. And just as we did when we increased minimum wage to help over 900,000 Ontario workers. And just as we did when we reduced energy costs so that families can count on access to reliable, sustainable, and affordable electricity. At every turn, our government is making life more affordable for individuals and families because we know that this is not a time to sit back and wait. That is why we are never stopping our fight against unaffordability and inflation during these uncertain economic times. Instead, we continue our work as one united Team Ontario, one that is ready to invest for tomorrow, today, one that keeps us moving forward and builds on everything we've done so far. C'est pourquoi nous poursuivons sans relâche notre lutte contre l'inabordabilité et l'inflation durant cette période d'incertitude. Nous continuons à travailler en tant qu'équipe unie de l'Ontario, une équipe prête à investir pour l'avenir aujourd'hui. Une équipe qui continue de nous faire avancer et qui fait fond sur tout ce que nous avons accompli jusqu'ici. To keep more money in people's pockets, to speed up the construction of housing and critical infrastructure that people and communities so desperately need, and to support economic growth for our long-term prosperity. That's what building a stronger Ontario is about, and we're ready to get it done. So now it is my distinct pleasure and privilege to introduce the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Peter, for your introduction. I'm thrilled to be back in the beautiful city of Mississauga. I say I'm thrilled to be back. I think I'm here every single day. But alongside Ministers Bethlenfalvy, Khanjin, and Tangri, and MPPs Rudy Cazzetto, Deepak Anand, and Sharif Sabawy. Since day one, this team, our government, has fought back against the carbon tax. In fact, one of the first things we did after forming government in 2018 was to put an end to the terrible cap-and-trade scheme introduced by the previous Liberal government. This tax, all carbon tax schemes, they're awful. They take money out of the people's pockets. They raise prices at the gas pump. They increase the cost of groceries and your home heating bills. They increase the cost of absolutely everything. That's why today I'm pleased to announce that next week our government will introduce legislation to protect people in Ontario from the high cost of any future carbon tax. If passed, this new legislation will require future provincial governments to hold a referendum before imposing a carbon pricing scheme. This new law will guarantee that no provincial government can force a cost of carbon tax on the people of Ontario without ensuring their voices are heard loud and clear. We're giving the people of Ontario a veto over carbon taxes. People know where I stand on the carbon tax. I've opposed it from the very beginning. My record couldn't be more different than Bonnie Crombie's. She supported the carbon tax right from the start. She's the queen of carbon tax. Even worse, she raised property taxes every year she was mayor. Bonnie has never seen a tax she wouldn't like to hike. The last thing people need right now are higher taxes. They deserve relief. So we're once again calling on the federal government to eliminate their carbon tax. The federal carbon tax is adding more than 14 cents every liter of gas, and they're getting ready to increase it again in April from 14.3 cents per liter of gas to 17.6 cents per liter. It needs to end. It's driving up the cost of absolutely everything, adding hundreds, even thousands of additional dollars in costs on the backs of the hardworking people of Ontario. I'm a strong believer in protecting the environment by investing in clean, green steel, by building the electric vehicles of the future, by leading the largest transit expansion in North America, by building the future of clean nuclear energy, by expanding provincial parks, not by taxing hardworking people. It's never been more important to keep costs down, especially now, as people struggle with the Bank of Canada's interest rate hikes and rising prices. Whether it's eliminating road tolls, cutting the gas tax by 10.7 cents that we did, scrapping the license plate sticker fees, or fighting back against the carbon tax, or saving people $1,600 right in Toronto and GTA that take transit on the One Fare program we announced. Our government will always look for ways to put money back into your pockets. Thank you to everyone for joining us today, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
We'll now go to reporters' questions. Please identify yourselves by name and outlet. It will be one question and one follow-up. First question.
Hey, good morning, Premier. Colin DeMello from Global News.
Hi, Colin.
On Bill 124, two successive courts now have deemed the bill was unconstitutional. Looking back, do you believe that Bill 124 was a mistake?
Well, we just believe it should be government's decision, not the courts. If they, hike up the costs, that's what we believe. It should be the government's. I always say Parliament is supreme, meaning the people are supreme. People elect the Parliament. They should make the decisions. But in saying all that, we respect the decision of the courts, and we're going to move forward on this.
So moving forward on this obviously means repealing the legislation. Can you tell us how your government came to that decision? Because for years, you and your finance minister and others have been defending Bill 124. So how suddenly did you decide to now reverse and repeal Bill 124?
Well, let's just remember, we've already signed agreements with the nurses and a lot of the teachers' unions. We've already spent billions of dollars, and times are different now. Times are different. When we came into office in 2018, when this province was a total disaster financially. And now, as we move forward, because of the great work of our team and the great work of the finance minister, we're a lot more financially stable. We're prudent fiscal managers. And there's a time when cost of living is going up. We understand that. And we're a government for the people, and we're going to continue making sure that we look at every avenue to save people costs and put money back into their pockets. You know, folks, we've cut costs of doing business here in Ontario to make ourselves more competitive by $8 billion. We're the only government, think of this, in the history of Canada that has raised revenues from $150 billion to $202 billion, $52 billion increase, and we've never ever raised a tax. We've reduced taxes. And the reason being we can do that, because we made it more competitive. We created the conditions and the climate for companies to come here, and they're coming by the droves all over the world. That creates more revenues. There's over 700,000 more people working today than there was 5.5 years ago, because we created the climate and the conditions for companies to come here and thrive and prosper and grow. Just think of this, folks, and I want to thank all the manufacturers. Because of our policies, Ontario manufacturers, we created more jobs last year, manufacturing jobs, than all 50 states combined. Think of this, think of that. We created more manufacturing jobs than all 50 U.S. states combined. And we're going to continue creating a strong economy and creating more jobs.
Good morning, Mr. Premier. Jamie with City TV.
Hi, Jamie.
Hello. Orchard Villa, during the COVID, the horrific stories came out of Orchard Villa. They just got a 30-year license. I want to explain that, but I also want to make you aware that at 10 o'clock today, some of the relatives of the victims are putting a lawsuit together to seek compensation.
Yeah, it's really hard to hear the first part of the question.
Okay, sorry. Orchard Villa, horrific stories came out. Lawsuit. Pending lawsuit. Also, they got a 30-year extension on their ability to operate in Ontario.
Well, we've hired many more inspectors, and I go back. You know, the previous government created 607 long-term care beds in 15 years. We're building in excess of 30,000 modern homes for people. That's pretty staggering. We're revamping another 27,000 homes until people have their dignity when they're in the long-term care homes. Jamie, I acknowledge it was a tough time throughout COVID, not only here, but around the world. But we've corrected those problems. We're going to continue improving the processes in all long-term care homes. But people are now going to be able to live and call it home in brand new facilities all over Ontario, including right here in Mississauga, that we built a rapid build, and that's the largest in the entire province right now, but we're going to continue to build.
I understand the reaction to the incident, but Orchard Villa still got a 30-year extension on their license. And there's such an emotional level here. How do you justify that?
Well, Jamie, I can tell you there was a lot of problems with many homes right across the province. We've corrected those problems. We have more inspectors going in. We're modernizing all the facilities. And I'll never forget, and I got to give the gal from CBC that said about the air conditioning. For the first time ever, these homes all have air conditioning as well. And I want to thank the reporter that mentioned that. We acted on it, and we moved quick, and now people are going to live a lot more comfortable than sitting in a long-term care home when it's about 100 degrees out. So we're making tremendous moves when it comes to creating more homes right across the province for people in long-term care homes.
Morning, Premier. Liam Casey with the Canadian Press.
Hi.
The Belleville Mayor is asking for money to help fund a community hub for addictions, mental health, and homelessness. The big city mayors came out yet again, asking for more help for, cities big and small,
sure,
urban, rural. What more can you do to help?
Well,
these cities?
I personally talked to the mayor myself. He's doing everything he can. We have Minister Smith on the ground in Belleville as well. We're going to try to support them. They need an influx of money right away. We're going to get that done, and then we're going to sit down and talk to them about building more. I always believe in the rehabilitation centers and supporting communities, but we also have to go after these bad guys. These bad guys that are poisoning our towns, our cities. Giving them tainted drugs that are killing people. We need to catch them. We need to throw them in jail, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Thanks, Premier.
Thank you.
The opioid crisis has gotten a lot worse under your watch. some medical professionals and advocates are calling on what they call a safer supply program to deal with these tainted drugs so that there are no tainted drugs. I know you're a big believer in rehabilitation and treatment. Some of these people are calling for this safe supply. The province of BC is doing it. What are your thoughts on this safe supply?
Yeah, so we've already put in 17 safe supply sites around the province there. It's not one or the other. It's not either or. It's and. We're going to continue working to make sure that we support the communities. But again, go to root cause. The root cause, there's drug dealers out there trying to kill our young people, middle-aged people, and giving them tainted drugs. You know, that's, as far as I'm concerned, is murder. We need to catch them, throw them in jail for a long time. But we're pouring endless amounts of money into mental health and addiction. Folks, there's no government in this country that's invested $3.8 billion into making sure that we have support for mental health and addiction. So we're going to continue working very, very hard in trying to eradicate this.
I want to clarify a little bit, Premier. So the 17, those are consumption and treatment sites, right?
That's right.
Those are not safe supply. Like, what do you think about safe supply?
Well, again, our Minister of Mental Health and Addiction is working on that. He's in conversations with communities. I always say he's the brightest person when it comes to mental health and addiction. Minister Tabolo, he's doing an incredible job, and we're going to support him.
Morning, Premier. Rob Ferguson, Toronto Star.
Hi, Rob.
We had a story yesterday about people forgetting to register their license plates, re-register their license plates on their birthday because there's no stickers anymore.
Yeah.
It turns out that so many people are forgetting that there's 1 million expired plates out on Ontario roads. So are you concerned about that?
Well, thanks for the question, Rob. I'm here to announce today, actually, that we're getting rid of that totally. Registering your vehicle, we did the first step, getting rid of the sticker. Now we're getting rid of the re-registration. It'll be automatically re-registered, so people won't have to worry about that at all.
And Premier, when will that start? And
I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Rob, but we're going to make sure that's very soon, extremely soon. It'll be legislated when we get back.
All right, thank you.
Bonjour, Jérémy Bergeron pour Radio-Canada. Ma question est pour le ministre des Finances. Pourquoi imposer un projet de loi comme celui-là aujourd'hui? Pourquoi c'est aussi important pour vous de mettre en place un nouveau projet de loi comme celui-ci?
OK. Merci pour la question. C'est très important parce que les coûts sont hauts partout pour les gens, pour le peuple. Alors, il faut faire des choses comme ça, comme le taux pour le carbon tax, parce que les peuples, ils ont un difficile temps. Beaucoup de gens pensent que nous sommes dans une récession, une économie qui a des défis. Alors, on pense maintenant, c'est le temps de signaler pour tout le monde que les taux d'impôt n'osent pas dans cette économie difficile.
C'était nécessaire, c'était utile d'introduire un projet de loi comme celui-là sur la taxe du carbone. Il n'y a pas d'autres priorités pour les Ontariens en ce moment?
Oui, il y a beaucoup de priorités. Le Premier ministre a parlé des priorités. Mais enfin, c'est un message pour le peuple d'Ontario que cet gouvernement, cet Premier ministre, nous avons the backs of tout le monde dans cette province et si quelqu'un veut augmenter les taux d'impôt sur le carbone, il faut demander ça au peuple d'Ontario. Merci pour la question.
Nice French, Minister. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. Premier, just on your announcement today, I think a lot of people are looking at this and saying, what is he talking about? Where is this coming from? We have the carbon price across the country. The federal Conservatives have pledged to, quote, axe the tax. What exactly are you coming forward with today and why?
Well, what we're doing, we're saying to the people of Ontario, if a future government ever tries to raise the carbon tax like they did before, they're going to have a referendum. It's simple as that. There's so many governments out there that said, oh, I'm going to lower taxes, and they aren't truthful with the people. They get in the office, like the previous Liberal government, and start jacking up the taxes, making it unaffordable. Let the people have a voice if it comes down to the carbon tax. And that's what we're going to do. Make sure that we put into legislation that they'll have to have a referendum on the, I just call it the tax scheme. That's all this is. It's making life more unaffordable for people right across the board. Every time you pump gas into your vehicle. Folks, look at this. Say that the gas rate now, it ranges from $1.40 to $1.50, right? Just imagine you go for a trip down in the U.S., that's $6 a gallon. When I was down south at Christmas, it was $2.80 a gallon. And a lot of it is made up of tax. It's unacceptable. You're being gouged by the carbon tax. It's simple as that. It's the worst tax ever.
Premier, is this some sort of veiled attack on Bonnie Crombie? Do you feel, you mentioned she's the queen of the carbon tax. I haven't even heard her come out in favor of the federal one. So, are you feeling threatened by her and you're preemptively attacking her?
Well, let's be very clear with Bonnie Crombie. She's raised taxes every single year she's been mayor. And if you look up when she was an MP in Ottawa, she was the queen of the carbon tax. She was up there cheering the carbon tax, makes things more unaffordable for people. She's been on record over and over and over again in favor of the carbon tax. And it's very clear when she was an MP, she led the charge on the carbon tax. And that's why Bonnie Crombie is the queen of the carbon tax.
Joe Warmington from the Toronto Sun.
Hi, Joe.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
All your colleagues, and thanks to the reporters. Let me give a question in. In 1913, 4 Jewish women in Toronto decided that they were tired of the anti-Semitism in the health sector, and they put together some money to start what is now Mount Sinai Hospital. It started in York in the 40s, went over to University Avenue, as you well know, and you've been there many times. Last night, there were masked protesters, many of them calling for intifada. Also, many other incidents of anti-Semitism. They jumped on the hospital. A doctor actually went out and counter-protested. I think since this has happened here in Ontario, it's a hospital you know very well and done a lot of work with. We're looking for your comment on this.
Well, I think it's absolutely terrible. The federal government came out with a law that you cannot protest on hospitals. Folks, get some decency. Have common sense. These hospitals are there to save lives. Mount Sinai did everything they could to save my brother's life. He was in there, and they're an incredible hospital, along with all the hospitals around the province. They're there to help people. Do not break the law, because that's exactly what happened. You broke the law, and again, the federal government came out with a law saying you cannot protest in front of hospitals. But even without the law, you have to have an ounce of decency not to do this. I don't care what you're protesting. That doesn't matter. You want to protest, go to City Hall, come down to Queen's Park, jump up and down, do whatever you want. But don't prohibit people going into a hospital when they're in there saving people's lives, because you never know. You may be the next person in that hospital, and they'll be trying to save your life. They're sacred hospitals.
Just a quick follow-up. In addition to that, there was also pro-Hamas kind of messaging put on another Cafe Aroma last night as well. The anti-Semitism, I've been writing about it for a lot of months, and it just doesn't seem to be going away. Is there something that the province can do about this?
It doesn't matter if it's Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. Folks, we have 120 nationalities that live here in Ontario. 200 languages are spoken. We pride ourselves around the world for everyone to come here and get along and live side by side and work side by side, no matter where you work. We need to live peacefully together. That's my message to the people of Ontario. I looked online the other day on how many wars there are around the world. I think one said 110 active wars. We live in a peaceful society. I'm asking everyone, please, get along, let's work together. That's not the Ontario I grew up in, what's happening today on any of the protests. We live in a peaceful society, and please obey the laws.
Thank you.
Hi, Premier Mike Crawley from CBC.
Hi, Mike.
Just on today's announcement, if you're going to try to stop future governments from bringing in carbon pricing, how are you expecting them to actually bring down carbon emissions, or do you not think that that's an important thing?
Oh, I think it's real important. Matter of fact, thanks for that question, Mike, because there's no government that has brought carbon emissions down more than our government. Let's just run through it here for a minute. We're eliminating coal-fired furnaces over at Stelco and at Dofasco and Algoma, and we're putting electric arc furnaces in. That's like taking 2 million cars off the road. We're building the largest transit system in North America and bringing more people out of their cars into transit. We're building and rebuilding, refurbishing nuclear facilities, be it the Darlington or Pickering, and Bruce Power just added their 6th line, clean nuclear energy. We're pouring money into all those areas, making sure we cut down on emissions, but it's not either or again. It's not you have to go radical on one side or radical on the other. You can be environmentally conscious and friendly and create jobs, economic development at the same time. That's exactly what our government is doing. And we'll continue to do it. And by the way, expanding parks, clean lakes, clean water, and clean rivers. That's what we believe in.
And Premier, the colleges and universities, a bunch of the universities are looking at really deep deficits.
Yes.
You've completely ruled out tuition increases. So
that's right.
What are you going to actually do in the way of funding to help the colleges and universities cope with the financial situation and the loss of international students?
Well, the international students, we got caught off guard by the federal government, never got a phone call that they're doing this, but here nor there, we're going to be there to support the colleges and university. I have all the confidence in the world in Minister Dunlop. She's working hand in hand. Actually, she worked at one of the colleges before she got into politics. We've been in full communication with the colleges and universities. We're there to support them. You know, that's the next generation. They're teaching, they're training to come out here and be, the future of our province. So we'll make sure we're there for them.
Hey, Premier. Aidan Shamanti from the Trillium here. Late last year, Minister Calandra, Matthew Ray said that your government is reviewing the Ontario Land Tribunal once again. So why is it still so slow after all of your various attempts at reform?
Well, you know something, we have to reform a lot of things to get homes built. We had over 800,000 people show up to our province, and we're trying to speed up development every which way possible. We're handing out over $1.2 billion to municipalities to build, and if they hit their targets, they're going to get a check, and that will go towards infrastructure. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we continue building as quickly as possible for the new Canadians that came into our province, the fastest growing region in the entire North America.
And a couple weeks ago, we reported that you met personally twice with Marie Hubbard, the late former chair of the OLT. What did you guys talk about in those meetings?
I have such a fond memory of Marie. I think she was 85 years old. She knew that file inside and out. She did an incredible job catching up on the backlog, and just to see how she's doing. She's just a wonderful, kind person. And I remember she baked some cookies. She brought them into me, and we sat there. Honestly, we ate cookies and discussed life. But my goodness, she was such a wonderful person, and I miss her dearly.
Clara Pasica, CBC. So, Premier, across this country, many provinces didn't want the carbon tax, and yet they, are now having it imposed on them. So, what makes you think that your plan will actually work? If we had this 6 years ago, would the people actually not have a carbon tax now in Ontario?
Well, it's very simple. We live in a democracy. We were elected in 2018 and a greater majority in 2020. One of our platforms, we weren't for the carbon tax. We brought the federal government to the highest court in the land. It didn't go our way. So we respect the courts, we move forward, but I'm doing everything I can to put money back into people's pockets. The worst place you could put money is in the government's pockets. We took a different approach. Rather than raise taxes and take money out of people's pockets and businesses' pockets, it doesn't work. It's economics 101. Put money back into people's pockets. They'll go out there. They may go for dinner. They might buy something they might otherwise not buy. Maybe they put a little renovation on. That stirs the economy. You put money back into companies' pockets. And remember, folks, back in 5.5 years ago, Kathleen Wynne said we're getting out of the manufacturing sector and we're getting into the service sector. That worked real well, didn't it? 300,000 jobs were lost overnight. People were struggling. And in 5.5 years, there's 700,000 more people working today than there was 5.5 years ago. And we're one of the hottest regions in the entire world. We're an economic powerhouse in North America. My friends south of the border are asking me, man, what are you doing? You're eating our lunch. Well, to my American friends that I love, we're going to eat your breakfast, we're going to eat your lunch, we're going to eat your dinner, and, of course, I never miss dessert, so I'll eat your dessert as well.
So you're putting some sort of legislation forward here that obviously takes a lot of conversations with legislative drafters and otherwise. What have you been told that makes you certain that it will work this time, that it won't just ultimately be rejected?
Well, when it comes to, are you talking the carbon tax, right?
Oh.
Yeah, so the carbon tax, I think the people have a say. The previous government said we aren't going to raise taxes. Man, they raised it more than any government they've ever seen. And then they came up with this big scheme on the carbon tax, and that's all it was a big scheme, taking money out of people's pockets. What is it with governments? No matter what level, municipal, provincial, or federal, what don't you politicians get? We're in a very tough situation. Prices are going up. Start giving people relief like we have, rather than always trying to gouge the people. You work overtime. Who's there in your pockets? The government has your hands in your pocket. Property taxes. Who's there? Municipal governments gouging you for more money. Why don't you run the government efficiently and stop taxing the death out of people in Ontario? Take a lead from us. We've never, ever raised a tax. Ever. And we've seen $52 billion more up to the coffers of Queen's Park because more people are paying taxes, more companies are coming here, and no matter if it's the $28 billion in the EV sector we've seen, close to $20 billion in the tech sector, $3 billion in the life science sector. Again, we created more manufacturing jobs. The manufacturers did, not the government. Manufacturers created more jobs than all 50 states combined in the U.S. We're on the right track. And again, we're going in the right direction, and we are an economic powerhouse in North America right now.
This will be the last reporter.
Hi, Premier Siobhan Morris from CTV News.
Hi, Siobhan.
You've talked about for some of your own policies that these are ideas that have been discussed on the campaign trail. Why is a campaign not sufficient to discuss something like a carbon tax? Why do you need the extra layer, an expensive layer potentially, of something like a referendum?
Well, I think it's very clear when you're out on a campaign, you set your goals, what you're going to do for the people over the next 4 years. And that's what I believe in a democracy, that Parliament's supreme, meaning the people are supreme. They vote you in. If they like you, they'll vote you in again, or they'll get rid of you. But people have to have a say when future governments want to come in there, dig their hands in your pockets, and start gouging you for more of your hard-earned money while we see prices of everything going up. I'll guarantee you, in our business, before I got involved in politics, there was a fuel surcharge. Guess where the fuel surcharge came from? From the carbon tax. So when they're delivering the groceries or the auto parts or any parts, you're paying more because of the carbon tax. You're paying more every time you pull up to the pumps. And, we're here at Pioneer. Pioneer just opened up across the street from where I live. It used to be a Husky. It's lined up nonstop. at the matter of fact, I have to ask the Pioneer folks, how much the fuel's increased on the volume, because people are lined up. They're always the lowest out there. But okay, here I go with the gas companies now. No offense to anyone, but why is it when I drive home at night, the gas drops 5, 6, 7, 8 cents per liter, and during the day they jack it up. So I encourage everyone, if you have time, I know a lot of people work afternoons, fill up at nighttime, you get a lower cost. But congratulations to Pioneer. They're always leading the way in the lowest cost. But don't start jacking up the prices during the day. It drives me crazy, absolutely crazy.
I guess maybe with that in mind, I'm wondering if the government's contemplating a longer break for the temporary gas tax relief you've been doing in sort of 6-month, 1-year increments. Would you commit to something more long term?
Well, we're going to take a look at everything as we move forward, budget by budget. But I'll tell you one thing, our government doesn't believe in raising cost. We believe in putting more money into people's pockets, creating more jobs for people. And that's the best way you help people. Lift them up. They have better jobs and bigger paychecks. That's what our government's all about. And we're going to continue to make sure the people of Ontario and the economy continues to move forward. There was over 23,800 jobs created last month. Call your neighbors, call your friends. We live in such a multicultural society. As I said, 120 countries people come from. Call your friends and family back home and ask them how things are going. I'll tell you, there's no better place in the entire world than to live right here in Ontario. I want to thank you. God bless each and every one of you. Thanks, everyone.
We're looking at the cost of living as it's climbing. A lot of it does have to do with taxes. A lot of it has to do with other types of things, such as imports and bringing more and more products from other countries into our country so that we can have them available to be sold in stores. There's a lot going on, a lot that we need to look at in order to make our lives a little more affordable, including things like housing, mortgage rates, rentals, all that sort of stuff also needs to be looked at a lot closer and see what's affecting it so that the costs can come down, so that we all can have a decent way of life without the stress of how is my paycheck really going to stretch far enough so that I can pay all my bills and put food on the table. So, thank you for listening today. You've been listening to Policy and Rights. I have been your host, Michael Clogs, and find that subscribe button wherever it is. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.